फोकस है, किन किन ऑब्जेक्टिव्स पे अभी फोकस जो है चल रहा है?
ठीक है, तो ये अगर हम NSDC का एक इकोसिस्टम के हिसाब से देखें तो हमारी जो मेन एम्फेसिस रही थी शुरुआत से, वो ये था कि स्किलिंग की कैपेसिटी बनाया जाए देश में। उसके लिए भारत सरकार की तरफ से एक इन्वेस्टमेंट मैनेजमेंट एग्रीमेंट के माध्यम से हमें कुछ पैसा भी दिया गया था, ताकि हम लोन देके प्राइवेट सेक्टर की तरफ से अच्छे ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन खड़े कर सकें। और करीब हम लोगों के पास 400 फंडेड पार्टनर है और 200 नॉन फंडेड पार्टनर, करीब 600-650 के लगभग में है, जो पार्टनर्स हमारे हैं, जिन्होंने ओवर टाइम करीब 11,000 सेंटर्स वो क्रिएट किए हैं, जिसमें से 3,000 मोबाइल सेंटर्स हैं, बाकी फिक्स सेंटर्स हैं। इसकी कैपेसिटी, एनुअल कैपेसिटी स्किल करने की करीब 50 लाख है। 50 लाख लोग को ये स्किल करा सकते हैं। करीब 2,400 जॉब रोल्स जो हम बोलते हैं, मतलब जो जिसकी डिमांड मार्केट में है, उसको हम लोगों ने फिर क्रिएट भी किया है। ये करीब 10 साल की टाइम इन जो ये 2,400 के जो कोर्सेज बता रहा हूँ, ये 37 डिफरेंट सेक्टर्स के हैं। जैसा कुछ ज्वेलरी वाले सेक्टर के हैं, कुछ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर के हो सकते हैं, कुछ एविएशन के हो सकते हैं, कुछ हेल्थ केयर के हैं, कुछ टूरिज्म के हैं। इस तरह से ITS में, एग्रीकल्चर पे भी है। तो इस तरह से बहुत सारे जो सेक्टर्स हैं, उनमें जो है हम लोगों ने कोर्सेज क्रिएट किए हैं। साथ साथ में जो गवर्नमेंट के फ्लैगशिप प्रोग्राम है, जिसे प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स PMKVY बोलते हैं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स कौशल विकास योजना, उसको भी हम लोग इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं। जो सेंट्रल कंपोनेंट है, स्टेट कंपोनेंट स्टेट गवर्नमेंट करती है, और जो सेंट्रल कंपोनेंट है वो हम लोग करते हैं। और उस पर भी करीब पिछले अगर 3 साल में देखें तो करीब 75 लाख लोगों का या तो रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ प्रायर लर्निंग हुई है या शॉर्ट टर्म ट्रेनिंग हुई है। मोस्टली हम शॉर्ट टर्म ट्रेनिंग पे रहते हैं, जो हमारे ट्रेनिंग पार्टनर है कुछ लोग लॉन्ग टर्म ट्रेनिंग भी करते हैं। तो ये बेसिक एनवायरनमेंट जो है, उसके इनिशिएशन हम लोगों ने किया था। फिर मंत्रालय बनी तो मंत्रालय किस डायरेक्शन पे हम लोग ओवरऑल जो है सिस्टम अपने चलाते हैं, और उसी हिसाब से जैसे सरकार डिसीजन लेती है, उसी हिसाब से उसको हम लोग इम्प्रूव करते जाते हैं।
Some of the audience is asking if we can also talk in English, so I will also ask some questions in English. Sir, how is like NSDC structured? Like how you work with the states, how you work with your training partners, and what is the organizational arrangement, like how it functions?
So NSDC is run by a board. The chairman of the board is Mr. A.M. Nayak, who is the chairman of Larsen & Toubro. And then we have various chambers of commerce having representatives within the board that we have, like Mr. Arunanda is representing CII, like that we have from FICCI and Mr. Sahane, and we have CREDAI present with us, Mr. Thacker. So the James and Jewelry Council, Mr. Pramod Agarwal. So that's one part of it. We also have 3 Government of India nominee in that, Joint Secretary MSME, then Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Skill Development, and Additional Chief Secretary from Government of Gujarat. So that's like the basic constitution. When it comes to our relationship with training partner, as I said, there are 2-3 types of training partner that we have. One is the market-based training partner that we have, somebody whom we have given loan, and they are the ones who have created capacity as per an agreement with us on what they will achieve, what they will accomplish. And accomplishment will have 2 parts. One is what they will accomplish in terms of finances so that they can repay us back this loan. And the second is there are certain social indicators that they must achieve. So we monitor them for that. And that's a relationship of both, the business transaction of anybody whom you might give loan, as well as the social indicators that the agency is supposed to achieve. The second type which we have is Prime Minister's Kaushal Vikas Yojana, where we select training partner following a process which government has prescribed to us. And this is more of a project-based relationship, and our relationship there is entirely, in a way, focused on PMKY guidelines. We have a huge electronic platform through which we do that work, because it's working throughout the country is quite a complex business. So we have very least manual contact with the training partners, excepting when we go for inspection, we have third-party inspector who go into inspections. So that's broadly how we are connected. And then there are a variety of other means. For example, we have posted one person in each of the state at the moment, and obviously that's very thin. But that does give us some bit of know-how about what is happening in the state, and the state also comes to know about us. So there's an interrelationship on that. Because we have 37 different sectors in which we work, for each sector, there is a sector skill council that has been created by NSDC. And these are again manned by very senior people from the industry with a professional CEO running it. So each of the industry is connected to NSDC through the sector skill council. And we come to know what are the different jobs that might be emerging in the market, what is the new what is the demand for labor that's occurring in different parts of India. So those are kind of information that we managed to get through the Sector Skill Council. We put all of it together, share it with government, and then plan ourselves for the next year accordingly. So I just try to give you a glimpse of what we do. But we of course work with different ministries also. We help different ministries run their program. Our portal is used by different ministries, by different state governments. We also help send people from India outside. Our partners actually teach Japanese language and send people to Japan. We have almost 600 different centers where people are trained for going abroad, and nearly 40,000 people go abroad every year through that network that we have created. So that's broadly, I'm giving you a bit of a glimpse of different things.
So, what are the major achievements of like NSDC till date, if you can exemplify?
So over time, we have created almost, as I said, 2.5 crore skilled people within the country. There is a better appreciation of skills within the country now. The value that skill brings is better understood because I think of a lot of work that NSDC has done. The structure that is needed for skilling, which is both the intellectual structure, which is what is called the framework through which you are going to teach people qualification packs, national occupation standards. These are technical things, but for every job role that you have, whether you are teaching a mason in Nagaland or teaching a mason in Kerala, there are competencies which should be common. And what is that competency? We have defined that competency. And then how should that competency be assessed? We have defined a process, how that should be assessed. We have created the infrastructure through which both can happen. The teaching can happen as well as assessment can happen. So there's a level of standardization which has come over. The most important part of it being that this standardization has to be acceptable to the industry. And therefore, whatever we do, we actually ask the industry through the Sector Skill Council. And it is on that basis we create things. We don't create it just because we felt that it should be in a particular way. So it's not just a pure intellectual exercise. It's an exercise where intellectual capacity is mixed up with what is the demand in the industry. So both of it is talking to each other, and that's how we co-create what we do. So I'm just giving you an example of how we operate. That's probably some idea.
Sir, what is the situation of employability of the people who are getting training skills?
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing, and we have been actually doing some analytical study to understand what happens when people get skilled. Do they get jobs? Do they don't get jobs? So I'm not talking of the current period, which is a bit of a crisis, but we have been doing our own analytics at the back end. Very interesting observations we have found. The best program we have found in the government, actually, the one which is financed by government, is recognition of prior learning. So there in India, although we say that only 3 or 4% of Indians are skilled, which is true that they are formally skilled, only 3 to 4%. But in reality, 42% of India is informally skilled because they have been doing a job for a long time. So if you look at the definition of skills from the global scale, these guys are already skilled. The only problem is nobody has gone out to recognize their skill. So Government of India for the first time put that program in. And we were trying to check what really happens to a person who gets formally skilled. So one of the most powerful things which we found was, firstly, the bargaining capacity of a person whom you have recognized for their skill, that increases. And there is almost like 25% jump in the wages of such people in average after about 6 months' time. Second most important thing, I believe, is the self-worth of that person, his own feeling about himself, that goes up almost like 80%.
Hmm.
his confidence or her confidence in um, in themselves actually increases drastically. So a lot of positive things which comes in, and I can cite you a specific case of Jaipur rugs, where actually in Rajasthan, females who are part of that Jaipur rug chain, and which is sold maybe in New York eventually when it's a finished product. But it actually starts from a village. And when I was visiting that village, I found a very a lady actually explaining to me that in the first time in her life, she's actually attending a class in the recognition of prior learning, and she says that the only certificate she has in her life is this one, and she's like what 45, 50, something like that. So the pleasure that she was showing just because of the fact that she could get a certificate, and also the realization that what she does has a whole value chain, it reaches as far as New York, is something which was mind-boggling for her. That really enthused her. Similarly, the short-term training that we do, we have found that there is a 15% wage differential between people whom we skill compared to someone who doesn't get skilled but still gets a job. A 15% differential, which implies that if a person who is new and is not skilled joins a company, gets about 8,000. A person who is skilled is given 9,000. So there's a per month I'm talking about. So it's like 12,000 rupee extra per year. And that for a poor man is quite a bit of money. So skilling actually is getting you quite a bit. And what I found from our analytics, and this back of the envelope calculation, we want a third party to do it, that for every 1 rupee that you invest, you actually end up getting 4 rupee in return. Of which 2 rupee goes to the individual who got skilled, 2 rupee goes to the industry because the productivity is increased. So this is the net present value. It's a social cost benefit analysis I'm talking about. So that's the gain which occurs to society. And therefore, the great need that we continue to actually push towards skills in a bigger way.
So have you looked at linking the skill program with the school and the higher education system and also with the ITIs? So are there any linkages between these?
Oh, yes. I mean, we work in about almost, I think, 7,000 schools. And we nearly touch about 5 lakh children every year. There are 26 different job roles on which, they are skilled by our training partner. I think, given the size and scale of India, more has to be done. And there is, I think, a great desire from both MHRD and also from Ministry of Skill Development to do more about it. So it's like a work in progress. The policy, the new education policy itself, is a draft stage, but it does talk about skills in a big way. So, and then we have also brought in some very innovative models. So, for example, the Kunskap-Pullen model from Sweden on how you do skilling in a very experiential way. That's something which we have brought in Haryana, and is doing quite well. So there are new ways of doing skills. Some lessons from Finland that we want to bring in. So that's where we are. But I think you picked up a very important part, that school needs to be well integrated to skills going forward.
Just for the benefit of our audience, what exactly, how you collaborate with schools and what exactly you do with the schools?
So it's like at the moment it's a MHRD program and is run through state government. The state government takes our help in identifying who are the good training partners. So let's say in a school, they decide that they're going to run 4 different types of skill program. Then they take our assistance in understanding that which are the best training partner that we have who could actually set up training centers there. And then students could actually take those. And in many cases, they also count. So you may not take your regular class, you might decide to do a skill class. So that's the manner in which I think things are happening. And this could be related to IT, this could be related to carpentry. It could depend. I mean, there are, as I said, 26 different trades. In today's world, carpentry is very sophisticated, actually. And even I was surprised. We usually have in our mindset a carpenter that we might have seen in a village, but today's carpentry is very different. And one of the most paid person in the world, perhaps, is the person who does underground welding. Although we have an image of welding which is very different. So underwater welding is one of the highest paying job. And if you are somebody who speaks Japanese language and has one of these kind of additional talents, then I think you are really, really, I mean, exotic and would be high in demand. So I think the world is moving much towards skills and embedding skills into what we do in schools and connecting them to jobs, and realization that the way the world is changing, having job-specific skills, I think, is critical for future, and we need to move in that direction in schools.
What's the vision for next 2 to 3 years for NSDC? What all new initiatives are being planned?
So one is, we strengthen what we are doing at the moment. So I think one of the core things that we have been focusing on is improving quality. Because when you do work in a country as vast as India, there would be, places where things go well and places where things don't go well. So the challenge is, how do you ensure that the lowest common denominator is high enough? That's where we focus. So a very heavy focus on quality, which implies that every training partner that we have, we go very deep into their capabilities. In fact, the way of accreditation in affiliation with us is fairly complex, and actually ensures that we know so much about them that they can't really do mischief if they wanted to, and if they did, we can catch them quickly. So that's one part. Is we focus on training of trainer, because only as good as the trainer is that the student will learn. So therefore, there's a need for having high quality training of trainer. Thirdly, also using technology, because the world is changing, and bringing in jobs that are relevant for the future, bringing in things which unleashes the capability of India's labor force, is declining. That's because 96% of women who are in labor force are, 23% are only working, and of the remaining, there's a huge number of people who have actually dropped out. So how do you get them back into work using, let's say, technology platforms? So those are areas where we want to focus. One more additional area is entrepreneurship, because we believe that apart from employment, and you might skill people and get them employed, we also need to get people into entrepreneurship. And when I talk of entrepreneurship, I don't mean the bigger ones. I basically mean nano entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs in villages, entrepreneurs who are needing very small amount of money, but and they are doing business which are highly locally relevant. So nano entrepreneurs, as we call them, are very micro entrepreneurs. That's what we want to focus on. We did a few pilots, and they have been quite successful.
Great. What is the impact of COVID-19 you are seeing from the skill sector perspective?
So for the moment, I think, like everything else, we have had to stall the skilling process, because physically it is not possible for people to meet. We do have platform. We do have online courses. We have actually what we call eSkill India platform. And there are 400 different courses out there. And these 400 courses are almost like 4.67 lakh minutes. It's a huge one. It's taught in 11 different languages. So therefore, if you want to learn something in Malayalam, you have things in Malayalam too. So it's fairly vast. And you got an app actually, if you can actually download from Google Play Store, and you can play it on your mobile also. It's fairly, in that sense, quite fungible. So we have tried to ensure that while things slows down because of the fact that people can't meet, on the other hand, platforms which are available, if you could use them to keep on learning whatever one could or whatever one is interested in. So that's where we are at the moment.
So are there any linkages of NSDC with the ITI and the higher education system also?
See, ITI is in the NSDC. Both of them work closely with Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So there are lots of commonness, including, for example, the apprenticeship thing that we do in a common portal. So there are lots of discussion that happens. We are, I think, talking very regularly, at least several times a month, in the meeting that Secretary convenes. DGT is also there, Director General of Training. I'm also there. So there's a lot of discussion which happens. The long-term training and the short-term training, how do they get integrated? The ministry is working quite a bit on that, and particularly on the issue of credits, so that you could map out what do you mean when you do short-term training, and how is that connected to long-term training? So those kind of work, NCVET has been set up by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. I think that's 1 or 2 year more of work, but those are issues which the ministry is grappling with and will resolve. It's fairly focused on it.
Excellent. Sir, there are questions on your screen, and it would be a good idea if you can take some questions and see the relevant ones and address them.
Okay, so they're quite a large number. So you want to pick out something?
Yeah, you can check out the relevant ones. Like there are.
I think I'll be biased, right?
so let me ask you then.
Yeah, you ask me so that people should not feel I'm trying to avoid some question. It's not like that.
So let me ask you. So there is a question by Mansoor Lari. Does NSDC promote and support private incubators and startup accelerators?
I lost you.
Does NSDC promotes and supports private incubators and startup accelerators?
Not really. We don't do that. If you're working on skill specifically, something which is related to skill, we do have financing for innovation. So there is a part of NSDC which does financing, which is again a loan that we do for any innovation that is relating to skills. We have done that in the past. So that's the only part, but we don't do other things because there are other parts of the government which actually does that. And our mandate is not there for that purpose.
And there is a question by Rajesh Kumar Yadav that there is a big loss for all TPs or candidates. What is the plan and strategy to enroll remaining target of reallocation which hazard due to lockdown? If any possibility to extend date of enrollment for this remaining target?
Yeah, so I got you. So on that, see this, I think it's been a matter of concern to us also. We also realize that in a business cycle, it's very important to have predictability of what is the business like for a training partner, particularly if it is going to be a private sector training partner, because you have invested, and having invested, then you would want to achieve your outcome and also ensure that there is a return to whatever, a fair value of return to whatever you might have invested. I think there has been a bit of issues here. One is, I think, the COVID complication, which has also arisen lately. And prior to that, as I think I saw in one question, and very rightly so, was some of the issues relating to our own skill management system that we had. And, we had given it to new vendor. It took a bit of time. It's stable now, but there was a bit of, I think, disruption out there. So 2-3 unfortunate things which has come together. And that has, I think, led to difficulties for training partners. I keep talking to the Association of Training Partners, and I fully realize the difficulty that they face. From our side, what we have done, 2-3 things which I'll explain. One is to those training partners who might face liquidity crunch. We have actually given to those training partners a line of credits so that they can access that, and they ensure that they can survive through this difficult period that all industry are facing. And we were pretty fast in doing that. Secondly, some of them who have to pay us back loan, we have given them moratorium, and for 2 quarters actually, we have given them moratorium, which ensures that they don't become defaulters and can actually keep moving forward without fear. In the meantime, I'm fully aware that the ministry is also very sympathetic to this particular aspect, and I'm aware that Secretary has been talking to the right people in the government to see how funds could come and how we could ensure that the system can be rebooted. But we have to understand that this is the whole Corona issue is a very big problem for the country as a whole, and therefore the government will have to decide how to allocate resource, looking at this particular aspect in mind. So how much resource will it really have, is something which we'll know only later. But I just want to assure that we are putting the facts on the table. And I'm also trusting that whoever the government takes the call would do it in the best interest of the country, because eventually, I know with a limited resource, you have to decide where you put it, and sometimes you have to take hard decisions. And this is unfortunately one of those times when a hard decision might be needed.
Sir, there is a question by Kuldeep asking about when will PMKY 3.0 launch will happen.
Now, from the side of NSDC, we have completed everything that is required for that purpose. We have the draft guidelines for that. The note is there with the ministry. It has prepared of its own. I think, as I said again, this will be a matter of resource estimation, and would probably require at least a month before clarity occurs, because at the moment you're in lockdown. I don't think so. The government would want to preserve resources for whatever challenge COVID might present to the country, and part of that, as they solve it, this issue will also come up at that point. Some call will be taken. Preparedness, I can tell you that we are prepared for that. So that's how we are.
There is a question by Amit Bhola. He's asking, how can we become a trainer from NSDC? Is there any exam for this?
A trainer, okay, so that trainer is hired by the private partner that runs the business. We don't hire trainer from our side. We have a portal that's called Taxila. So if you go to our website, you'll get that portal where we have the names of many trainers, almost 20,000, 30,000, who might have got trained through our SSE ecosystem, are certified, and therefore are the ones who are actually running these training centers. So you should follow the pathway that is given in that Taxila portal. You need to connect with the skilled training partners, and then ask them their needs, and then perhaps they will. We have provided guidelines on what is the minimum qualification for different job roles. As I said, there are 2,400 job roles. Each of them will have different qualification requirement. So whether you are qualified or not, that's the estimation which they do. How much will they pay, etc., is a private conversation between you and the training partner. That's how it works.
Deepak Garg is asking, what are the next year